Okay, welcome to Historical Books. This is the online site for this class. If you're not familiar or trying to get familiarized with the online site, here's how it will look. Some of the features will not be on your um, page because I'm a professor and you're the student, but there are some basic things that are the same. If you look over to the right, you'll see the schedule. If you're enrolled in the class, then of course the first lesson will be this Wednesday, Lesson 1, Introduction to Biblical Narratives. When you go to, and of course this is the dashboard. If I need to share something with the class, or if you're wanting to share something with the class, then you can fill in this space here, type whatever you need to type, and it will be shown to the class. When you go to the info tab, it's basically like a pre-syllabus. Just kind of gives you, the name of the course and kind of a little gist of what the course is about. Here you can download under files. You'll see first of all the required textbook. We'll get to that in a minute. But the files, under files, you'll see the online syllabus. You can either download that or you can click the little box here and just be able to preview. Okay, and we'll just go through the syllabus. Of course, this is historical books, and what we're going to do is use literary and historical theological interpretive methods to help understand the historical books. This is Joshua through Esther, actually. Joshua through Esther. And we're going to look at the books as literature. We're going to kind of exegete the history of the historical books, just examining the historical context behind the various biblical narratives. And then apply that through tests and things like that as well. Your two main books, again, I'll get to those, but the main book is Introduction to the Old Testament, and this is Historical Books by David M. Howard. I also have a suggested reading there. You don't have to get it, but it's an interesting read if you're interested in how biblical narratives work from a Hebrew perspective. From the author's perspective, and so this is a pretty good book if you want to read it. I won't ask you anything about it or as far as in test form or anything like that. Speaking of tests, you'll have two main tests. You'll have a midterm and a final. The midterm will cover from the introduction to Ruth, and then the final is not comprehensive. It will just cover from Samuel to Esther. Also, there will be a reading and response. You'll read a paper that I wrote while working on my master's. It's an exegesis paper. It's an excerpt of an exegesis paper on Genesis 38, 7 through 10. And it's entitled The Implications of Seed Being Wasted on the Ground. And all I want you to do in response to this is write a 2-page response, standard 12-point font. You can certainly write more than 2 pages, but definitely not less. In your paper, the main question you'll address from reading it is, how does Genesis 38 connect to Ruth? And you'll notice when you get to the Ruth lesson, the Judges Ruth lesson, you'll see that paper, and you'll be able to download it from there. I'll show you that in just a moment. But the idea is that it does make a major connection. Genesis 38 makes a major connection to, at least the concept, makes a major connection to Ruth, and some of the concepts that are there. So just look at this as far as that's concerned. How would you make the connection from the English alone? How important is it to examine the context of the passage in your role as a teacher or preacher of God's Word? Keeping all that in mind when you're writing this paper. And again, it's just a 2-page response. You don't have to quote sources or anything like that. It's just basically you're responding to the paper and making the connection to Ruth. Also, again, we'll be doing posting. In other words, discussion is what Popular calls it. And so therefore you're required each week. I'll show you where that's at in just a moment. The only thing that's different on the schedule, on the syllabus, is the fact that I'm doing now the kind of an introduction and a syllabus, talking and walking you through it. So everything is just pushed up by one, really. Basically, we forego the introduction and syllabus, and we jump right into the biblical narrative starting in lesson 1. And so everything is kind of jumped up. We separate Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. Those are 2 separate lessons. I'll show you that also as well. So let's look at that now. When you go to your lessons tab, you won't see all of these lessons. You'll just see, like for instance, October the 12th will be the first lesson that's due. But these are how the lessons are broken down. So we go ahead and start with the introduction to biblical narratives. And you'll see, of course, the video. It'll say lesson 2, but it's really lesson 1. But you'll see the video there. Just watch the video, take notes like you would normally do. In the assignments, under the assignments tab here, you will see your lesson 1 posting. You'll see that it's due on October the 18th. And what basically, and I'll show you my little calendar down here. So basically what we're doing is, the October the 12th is when you start your lesson. And you will basically have between the 12th and the 18th to actually make that first post before the next lesson occurs. So what you can do is, and I've had students just kind of posting here, there, and everywhere. The best thing to do is to go ahead and just click on lesson 1 post, and then you will see a space to either write or upload your post, like if you do it in Word document. But there's also a space to write or whatever, and then that way I can see it, I can grade it, and it'll all be right there, at least for lesson 1. Lesson 2 will have its own separate slot. So just go to the assignments. Just go to the assignments, and you'll see that on the side there. That way we can all, I'll be able to find the post rather easily. So just keep that in mind. Let's see, what else did I say? As far as tests are concerned, let me show you the book here just for a moment. The book is Introduction to the Old Testament, historical books. Again, David M. Howard. You don't really have assigned reading, but the book is basically just as a help and an aid to understand. I do ask some questions from the book, and so you will want to just kind of read along there, going along with the book. There are some discussion questions. You have those as just they'll be in your notes. So I think that is about it. We've discussed the test and then the postings, the assignment. We'll go ahead and jump down to Ruth. I'll show you that. Here's the lesson on Ruth. Of course, you'll see in the files section where you'll get the article. Again, I remind you about the article, and then of course it's not due. The actual 2-page paper is not due until, and this is where you would put the 2-page paper, is not due until week 6, the response to Watford excerpt. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through that. I hope this helps and I hope that you enjoy historical books. Thank you.